This is a 2007 Honda Pilot, and I started working on the ignition cylinder. I'm going to try and rekey it because my key got stuck. So right now, so far, the hardest parts are that to take the top panel off. There's only 3 screws on the bottom. But to take the top panel off, I have to really struggle and wiggle it around this steering shift here. And right now, I am to the point where I have to remove these 2 breakaway safety bolts that hold the clamp on top of the lock cylinder. And on the other YouTube videos, they didn't mention anything about this harness that's in the way. So I'm trying to get this harness out of my way right now to chisel away at these 2 little bolts that are in here, like they say on the other YouTube videos. I had to remove the module, the electrical plug that goes to the turn multi-purpose switch, and then this plug that goes in here for, I don't know what it's for, but it's all part of this harness that's kind of in the way of that bolt. I don't want it to be in the way when I'm trying to put the screw back and remove that screw and whatnot. So I'm going to see if I can remove this. I need a flashlight to see how to remove this plastic keep for this harness right here. That plastic keep from here, but it looks like you need a special tool to get behind it to squeeze the mushroom that it goes through a hole and the mushroom's open on the other side. You got to squeeze it and pull this whole harness. So I guess I can work around this harness if I really have to. It's going to be a little harder, but we'll try. The tie wrap, and then there's that mushroom thing I was telling you about. And the whole thing is one piece, probably made by Honda. So what I did was I went in here and with a small little tiny screwdriver, and I pried the tab to release the tie wrap so that I can get this harness out of the way so that I can get to those bolts that they on YouTube, they're so easily, see how I move the harness out of the way and I can get right to these bolts that they say that they so easily bing, 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 hit it with. So this white plug goes in here, and this plug goes in there. Those 2 green plugs go into the lock cylinder. The harness all gets out of the way here like this. Don't forget to put this little guy. I moved out of the track because I was trying to get the other harness out of the way, so I don't need to mess with that anymore. And now I have to remove the lock cylinder, and there's a screw here, and there's a couple more screws somewhere else. I think there's 3 screws, but first I have to get these breakaway bolts out. Alright, I got one out, and there's one more to go. Right there. And then we'll remove the cylinder, lock cylinder. Yeah, this thing's got quite a few, you'll see some videos on YouTube how easy this is, but here's another harness that's in the way and is connected to the switch. At least I was able to squeeze this mushroom through. It goes somewhere else. There's a lot of stuff to put back. So you got to remember where all this stuff goes. This screw went here, and then there was another screw on the other side. I got 2 of those done. I got the top bracket removed. Pretty much just like it said on the other YouTube videos where you chisel it off. And let's see, there's one more here somewhere. Maybe it's this one, I'm not sure yet, but I'm sure you'll find it. It's just common sense. Take your time, be a little patient with this. It's not as easy as it seems. Yeah, that was the last screw that went on top, and it just came right down, but it was attached to this module right there. See this module? It's just 2 screws. You take the 2 screws out, and then the whole thing finally comes out. And so there are like 4 screws to take this immobilizer off, and the plastic insert that goes in here like this. There's 4 screws. I'm going to get them off of the front of this. You'll see various YouTube videos on how to do that. Just 4 screws. It's really easy. Just don't want to mess with the immobilizer at all, because you can unprogram the key by messing with that. So now I'm up to the point where I'm trying to take the cylinder out, but there's this little retaining screw in there. I mean a pin that won't come out. I can't get anything small enough to pull that thing out. It says on one of the YouTube videos to strike it with a screwdriver right in this gap right here to loosen it, but I've been trying and I'm afraid I don't want to break it. So I mean, it looks like it came out a little bit, but I tried sticking a little tiny itty bitty screw in there to try and get a grip on it to pull it straight out, but haven't found a screw to do that yet. I don't want to damage that pin, you know. So after a great deal of effort, banging and tapping the living daylights out of this thing, this finally came loose and the cylinder came out. But as you can see, there's the pin is still in there, but I got it out far enough so that the cylinder lock will come out. Now I don't see a spring. I know there's a spring in there somewhere, but it didn't come out with this assembly. So, oh, there's a spring. Yeah, I see it in there. Let's see if I can shed some light on that. It's in there, and I'll pull it out. I'll pull the spring out and clean it, put it safe, somewhere safe. Yeah, they make it look easy on the YouTube videos, but this cotter pin right here was a bear to get out of this. Right there is a retainer for the final access to the cylinder. I had to actually make a punch. I don't know if this is aluminum or steel. I'm hoping that this was steel, because I can use this as a punch to punch out the pin, because this collar has got to come off next, and then the cylinder should come out, and we should be able to change the tabs that are inside that are probably worn out. And I've been messing with this for about, I don't know, I lost another pin, probably an hour. I lost the other pin that goes here. They say to tap it in between, like I said before, but it damaged the pin, so it was out of round. So I want to use it again, but I tried to, when I tried to make it back into round, it flew out of my pliers and landed somewhere. I don't know where it is now. I guess the most time-consuming part of this entire job was taking those cotter pins out. They're really small cotter pins, and I'm sorry, they're not cotter pins. They're tension pins, and they go in a couple of places in the cylinder or whatnot. But anyway, this is the kit that I bought to rekey the cylinder. They got number 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, and 6s, and they got springs, and they got these. There's one of these in the cylinder I found, number 2, this one here. And I took one out and replaced it, and I replaced all of them, but then the key was still sticking, so I was like, oh man. So I decided to take a couple out, but I left a couple in that were important to keep the key in, so that when you're driving down the highway, the key doesn't fall out of the ignition, and that could be a problem. So here is the number in case you want to take this on. Like I said, holding these things around the cylinder so they don't pop out was a challenge also. But it's working now. Here are those pins I was talking to you about, but these are too fat. These don't work. You need the next smaller size. I went to Ace Hardware and got these, but I couldn't use it. I found the old pin and reused it. So I went to the hardware store and I bought 2 Allen head type screws to go in here to replace the brake off once. And you have to be careful. There's a lot of things they don't tell you about this. There's a key on the bottom. There's a hole. There's kind of like an alignment slot at the bottom of the steering column. And there is a like an oval shape. It's at the bottom down. You can't see it now because I already put it in. But you see how this whole thing moves? It's slotted on the bottom, and if you don't slot it in there, what happens is nothing is lined up. So you got to make sure that that oval-shaped slot that's underneath the steering column, you'll see it, matches up with the huge shape of the ignition switch. By the way, this has taken me all day to do. I don't know if it's me or what, but the pins were really hard to get out. I had to get my grinder and grind these heads down because they wouldn't fit in this bracket. You know, there were little obstacles like that. And then my keys wouldn't work right. The little pins that I put in there to replace the old ones, my key got stuck. It didn't work right. I had to redo it. At one point I was thinking about just leaving them all out, but then I thought if I'm driving down the road and the key falls out of the ignition, I got a problem. So I went back in there and I put at least, like, I left a couple out, but I put like 70% of the keys back in. Well, the engine starts and the key is a little sticky, but maybe it's because it needs to be broken in. I don't know. It's better than it was, I guess. And there it goes. And it's a lot more than meets the eye on this baby. It's a Honda Pilot 2007. So yeah, it's the one with the entertainment package. And that's about it. I'm gonna put the cowling on tomorrow because I'm had enough for today. Take care.